We're talking Overwatch League Free Agency along with Jacob Wolf. My name is Arda Ocal for ESPN Esports, and things are already moving. We have just officially gotten into Overwatch League off-season, transactions being made, whether it's players, coaches, GMs. The first thing I want to say, though, kudos to the Overwatch League website for telling us every single player and their contract status right now. I love the fact that I can go to one website and see it as opposed to having to piece it together all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was something that should have happened a while ago. There's been a lot of discussion about what data should come out. We saw median salary, average salary in there, and I think that I was really surprised to see the post a little bit. I think that the Overwatch League has been very protective with their information generally. It took us forever to get the official rule book even. Mm-hmm. So. But I mean, this is something League of Legends has done for years, right? It keeps an updated database for all the regions that are managed by the regional commissioners and their teams. And I think that, this is something that should be public information. There's no reason, in my opinion, to hide this. And yes, I am a reporter that likes to report on these things, so there's a little bit of bias on that. But in terms of access to information, this seems like something that should have been done a while ago.
So we got some big names that are either on an option or are free agents outright. Carpe, Gamsu, Surefour are just three examples.
Yep.
Who are some names that jump out at you?
Birdring is one that's really interesting. Carpe, I think, is probably one of the most valuable free agents. That he showed in Season 1 that he was really, really talented and that he had a really big future. Obviously, Season 2, he played well, but the Fusion didn't do as well as they should have, I guess. The big thing for me in this sort of batch of free agency is this is the first time some of these players have a choice, right? In Season 1, players were signed to contracts that were one-year deals with a second-year team option, and so obviously teams picked up a lot of them. There are also two teams that are undergoing significant management/ownership changes this offseason, which are the Houston Outlaws, who will be coming under new ownership, and then also the Los Angeles Gladiators, who the Sentinels group that has ran that team for the last couple of years is no longer involved in their day-to-day, and the Kronk Esports and Entertainment Group are building their own front office. So there's an opportunity for both teams and players to make significant changes in their lifestyle. And so looking at that, there are a lot of players who have done well in this league who this for the first time, they will have data to point to, because when you were a free agent, say, playing in Apex in Korea, or you were playing in some of the contender series in North America and Europe, looking at that, there was not as much opportunity to point data-wise and go, I am worth this amount of money, or I'm worth this, contract concession. There is that now. The Overwatch League has been going on for 2 years, and now those people have the opportunity to sort of market themselves in a way they did not 2 years ago.
Already some interesting team news out there. The first thing I want to mention is the Florida Mayhem. If you're keeping score at home, by the way, since the end of the regular season, they've parted ways with their general manager and assistant general manager.
Well, they promoted their assistant general manager.
And one of them got let go, yes. One assistant GM got promoted after the initial GM left. Another assistant GM left, parted ways as well. The head coach, and most recently, the head coach and half the roster. Now, that is a monumental shift, no matter what sports team, any esports franchise, anywhere.
Twice for the same organization in 2 different games in the past 3 months, by the way, because the Misfits League of Legends team, which is under the same ownership group, completely turned everything over, and now they have to rebuild a League of Legends team, a Overwatch team, and a Call of Duty team in the span of less than 6 months.
Is that a good strategy?
I mean, that's a lot. I would not want to be Ben Spoont right now, honestly. That is a lot to do. So I think that he has some tall tasks ahead of him.
Let's focus on the Overwatch part of things. Half the roster, all those changes that they made, GM, head coach, was that all? It was a bad season. Yes, we all know that for the Florida Mayhem.
2 in a row.
Okay.
To be fair.
Yes, but a change of that magnitude, do you believe that it was warranted, and why?
I think it is. I was really confused when they signed the team they did in the first place in Season 1, that they sort of put their building blocks around. Potential for success, but everyone knew that even if you were successful in Europe, as a lot of those players were, were you really going to be successful in the Overwatch League? Look at the teams that succeeded in Season 1, right? Put the Fusion aside for a second, because they're an international lineup. But really, the ones that shined in Season 1 were the London Spitfire and the New York Excelsior. Look at this year. You have one international team in the San Francisco Shock that's a mixed language, mixed ethnicity team. And then you had the Vancouver Titans, who are all South Korean. And we're a mostly established team before they got here. They were playing Apex in Apex as Runaway. So when you look at this, I think that the level of competition is elevated since some of these players have signed their contracts 2 years ago. And there is talent. There's talent out there that is being scouted internationally too. I think that turnover is good, but I think it's the specifics of the Florida Mayhem. There's a lot to be done.
Well, you mentioned the San Francisco Shock. They have already made some signings again. And by the way, they had the greatest...
Re-signed almost all the team. Nevix is the only one noted as a free agent on this case.
And we have to say, though, I mean, that's not really a surprise, is it? Because
of course
they did have one of the greatest esports seasons of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I was with Sinatra and Super last night after they did their segment on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and just like they were talking to me about how their lightheartedness and sort of like trolling, as they were saying, like lifted up the team and like opened up some of the South Korean players that didn't speak English that wanted to sort of get in on the trolling and joking around with one another, that it incentivized all of them to start getting along in sort of the more lighthearted way. The San Francisco Shock are something we don't see very commonly in esports. Generally, particularly in first-person shooters, that a lot of these players, like, if you have an international team, you've really got to build that bond, and it's not easy. So I think that the Shock, like re-signing almost everyone, makes total sense.
The 2-2-2 roll lock, of course, as far as we know, will continue into next season. Now that also means that in the offseason, the London Spitfire, for example, are now in the market for DPS players, for example. Do you think that this is going to be...
There's one specific one that would be quite nice, right? Carpe?
I wonder. But do you think that for teams in general in the offseason, will the roll lock be a detriment to them as they're putting these teams together? Will we see deficiencies in certain roles? Or even will this drive up the price for certain players because they happen to be the most attractive player in a certain position on the market?
Yeah, I mean, I think we will see someone like Carpe get an incredibly fat contract. I think that he's one of the most valuable free agents going into this.
Do you think it'll exceed Sinatra?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 150K, like, again, we're talking, and we talked about this on the way to the studio today, but, like, we're talking about how spending has changed. 150K was unheard of when these players were being paid peanuts in contenders, right? That's why it was so impactful 2 years ago when he signed that deal. But now we're talking about, like, the Overwatch League has been going on for 2 years. These teams, many of them, are continually investing, right? And continually throwing more and more money into marketing and to franchise fees, right? It's like, this is a league where franchise fees, like, ranged anywhere from 20 to 60 million in the span of 2 seasons. There's a lot of spending.
In the 9 figures, you're right.
Yeah, a lot of spending. So, I mean, I think totally that we will see someone like Carpe be highly sought after, and I would not be surprised. My somewhat educated prediction, New York or London would be sort of my pitting destination for him.
Last question for you. Some of the teams on the list on the Overwatch League website already have a set team. Like Chengdu basically have all their players under contract already, whereas you have teams like Atlanta that have a slew of team options, or even Philly and London who have a few spots to fill. Based on what you're seeing and how you think the offseason will unfold, which arrangement or which scenario is better? Is it better to be safe and just have everyone under contract and just watch the world burn or unfold? Or would you rather be in the thick of it because there's so much opportunity?
I mean, the reigning Overwatch League champion is in terms of they just signed everybody before they even got a chance to go on the market. So I think that it makes a lot of sense to do that. Clearly a very successful team. The Vancouver Titans have a lot of people under contract too. They are, they were the runner-up, and they were clearly the second best team throughout the entire season. And so I think if you're one of those teams, you say, hey, let's run it back. Let's do it again, or let's do it better if you're the Titans and go win a championship. But I do think there's a lot of appetite to go spend big. I do think that New York and London, respectively, will be big spenders in this free agency, whether it's recruiting other Korean, South Korean players that exist on other teams that are superstars, people like Carpe. That's why I'm thinking he may end up in one of those spots. Or scouting internationally, going out there and looking at some of the contenders, second-tier leagues to look and recruit, right? And South Korea is known as a breeding ground for talent all over the place. The fact that the Titans previously runaway were not in Season 1, were winning everything in South Korea, and then come into the Overwatch League with a little bit of change, and suddenly are the second best, at one point the best team in the league, I think that's indicative of the fact that there's a slew of talent in there, especially internationally.
Agree or disagree with this in the comments below on this video. This will be a monumental offseason for Overwatch League based off exactly what you said. The contracts will get to a whole new level. I agree with you that Carpe is going to lead the way there. We're going to see an unheard of contract, whether it's Carpe or someone else, whether it's a desperation play or putting together a super team. We're going to see numbers thrown around that we have never seen before in Overwatch League, and that will become the new norm as a result of this offseason. Agree or disagree? Let us know in the comments, and please subscribe to our channel as well as click the ring that bell, I should say, so that you know that videos like this are coming out and you'll be notified. And of course, continued coverage available at espn.com/esports.